Hello and welcome to The Public Good. This is Dejia James from Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, which unites over 365 community organizations working to build a better Buffalo. We're delighted to join you every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. on Power 96.5 FM and Mix 1080 a.m. You can also watch live video of every show on our Facebook page at facebook.com/ppgbuffalo. Don't forget to follow PPG on Facebook and Twitter, and of course, you can always get great information on our website, ppgbuffalo.org. Our guests today are Terry Alford, Executive Director of the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor, and Andreina Taylor, Summer High Road Fellow from Cornell University. I appreciate you both taking the time to speak with our listeners about this integral and historic location in the city for Black community. May you both just take some time to introduce yourselves and a bit where you come from and some of the work that you do.
I'm Andreina Taylor. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. I'm a rising sophomore at Cornell University studying labor relations, and I'm interning over the summer with the corridor.
That's awesome.
And again, my name is Terry Alford. I'm Executive Director of the Heritage Corridor. Thank you for having us this afternoon. I'm a product, native son of the community. I grew up in the Fruit Belt area of the city. So being the Executive Director now, working on my fourth year, it's been a blessing and a journey of joy, I would say. Mm-hmm. There's exciting things happening in this corridor, as you can see all around us. And we are looking for bigger things to come.
Absolutely. And I see there's construction going on around here. Y'all got a beautiful new sign. So for those who don't know exactly what involves and what locations are involved with the corridor, can you overview that for the listeners?
So absolutely. So yeah, the Heritage Corridor on Michigan Avenue represents about 150 years of the African American experience, the African American significance and impact made on the city of Buffalo as well as surrounding communities in our region and in the country itself. So, you have 150 years that are represented and as emblemized in what we call our four founding culture anchors, which includes the Michigan Street Baptist Church, the Colored Musicians Club and Museum, the Reverend J. Edward Nash House, and of course, WUFO Radio and the Black Radio History Collective. When you talk about 150 years that's representing these four anchors, you think of the abolitionist movement, the Niagara movement that became the NAACP, the jazz period, the civil rights and social justice movements that we find ourselves even in today. So, as you mentioned, we're excited because there's a lot of things happening in this corridor. As you see with the construction, when we're looking to stabilize these important historic sites, stabilize them, expand on them, namely to create and promote this area as a heritage destination for all of us to be proud. The overall goal is to make this corridor a vibrant place to live, play, work, and worship, as it was at the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's amazing. And you can feel that, especially with the construction happening. I already saw some of the construction that happened near the Nash House a few years ago when I was there, and there were new pathways and it just felt so much more interconnected. It was beautiful. I was able to take a tour of the church and the little cavernous space they have that housed slaves at a certain point. And there's just such palpable history here that I don't think everybody in the city takes advantage of coming to. And so, especially the Nash House, I would like to talk about that a little bit and who were the Nashes and why people should go visit. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazingly preserved to be exactly how it was as they lived. But what is that experience for folks who may not know who the Nashes are?
So simply, the Nashes, Reverend J. Edward Nash was the longest serving pastor of the Michigan Street Baptist Church. When he came to the church, he was in his 30s. He stayed right through his death, which was close to 6 decades later. So the Nash family, which included Reverend Nash and his wife, Frances Nash, and then their son, Jesse, were very important in the African American community, especially being leaders in promoting social justice, especially in our community in those days. Mm-hmm. So the Nashes entertained such great figures as W.B. Du Bois, mm-hmm. Booker T. Washington, mm-hmm. Adam Clayton Powell Sr. and Jr., mm-hmm. And those type of individuals who were key and instrumental in promoting civil rights, women's rights, and social justice in a community that long really starved for those type of things. Mm-hmm. As leaders in the city of Buffalo, they were instrumental in promoting such groups as the Phyllis Wheatley Club, the NAACP, and those things that were designed to uplift our community, especially our people in this community. Mm-hmm. Jesse Nash, their son, ended up as he grew up, he became a prominent professor at Canisius College. But they were very much instrumental in their location with their home, even because they were steps away from all these other historic happenings that was prevalent in the quarter at the time.
Mm-hmm. And that's the civil rights history alone. And like you mentioned, women's history. I think a lot of people don't tie necessarily women's history to this area, even though Western New York and parts of Central New York, we know how kind of house the initiatives of the women's rights movement. And to have a place still standing where those figures were and where people have the opportunity to also stand where exactly they were as Absolutely. Well is just, it's something that's just of incalculable value for our community. And I want our listeners to really, really try and get down here if you've never been. There's a million places that the school field trips take you, and I don't think they necessarily take advantage of the corridor as much as they should. Mm-hmm. But it's Black history in our own backyard. That's ours, that we really should take advantage of. Andreina, I'm wondering how you feel about working at such a historically Black, organization and really collection of different organizations that represent such history, and how do you feel working there for the summer?
I've loved it so far. Back home in Pittsburgh, we don't have a corridor like this that's so well organized and has such an impact in the city. So I've definitely loved working here this summer. It's been good to see how they interact with the community, especially with the farmers market, and seeing how this place holds such importance to not only Buffalo as a city, but in the community.
Yeah, and you mentioned the farmers market. So what are some other things and community events that you have going on kind of throughout the summer that folks are welcome to come down and participate in? So
we're going to be involved in a number of different things. We're going to help promote with the Colored Musicians Club and Museum their annual Queen City Jazz Festival, which is happening next Saturday, the July 29th, right in front of the Buffalo Library in downtown Buffalo. Andreina already talked about our weekly farmers market, which is every week has been growing in terms of vendors as well as folks who are coming to look to see what we're offering with the farmers and what they have access to with vendors. We'll be looking at promoting some more musical festivals as we get into the fall as well. Yeah. We're talking about a car cruise night here. If those folks who know Doug Ruffin, who's a native son of Buffalo as well, but has captured Buffalo Black history in a unique way, we're looking at in September screening his documentary again, right in our parking lot. We're excited because we have a new headquarters and visitor hub right across the street from WUFO Radio at 136 Broadway. So we're fully activating, this corridor, with many different activities. I'll be remiss if I didn't mention, tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll be, promoting with the Martin House a unique event that will help expand the story of the Nash House. And we'll be bringing in a national spokesperson on agriculture, especially on community gardening, Aber Lee, who just last week spoke on, with Gail Wells here at your station. And we'll be using that as an opportunity to promote history, but also promote gardening. Mrs. Frances Nash was an avid gardener, and everything she grew in her garden, she gave away, especially to the needy that were immediately around their home, the Nash home. So we're looking to carry these legacies on, with these activities.
Absolutely. I think that's amazing, especially when we talk about the food desert situation and different things of that nature that we know we've dealt with for a very long time in Western New York, and especially in the inner city of Buffalo, specifically the East Side. The farmers market and, extending that legacy of Mrs. Nash is so important. And to be able to nourish our communities and have our own community nourish our community. And there's ways to do that aren't just farmers market, but that gardening piece. We see a lot of block clubs for years have had community gardens. But there really is an opportunity for Black folk to tap into agriculture, which historically actually is a profession that is our own. I think we've been erased a lot from kind of the agricultural history of the United States. But there's a ton of Black farmers. I used to work in the immigration space, and we worked a lot with farm workers. And oftentimes Black farm workers were a little bit erased. You think of Latino farm workers and things of that nature, but there were actually currently Native Black American farms, but also Haitian H-2A workers and things of that nature working on farmland. And a lot of that historical knowledge of earth and agriculture come both from Native American and African communities. So I think it's amazing that you're highlighting agriculture in the inner city space, because I think we're a little disconnected from that part of our heritage, but it's so important. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Oh, no, I think you raised a very good point.
Yeah.
It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
Literally, we were agricultural communities in Africa before we were pulled out of Africa and brought to America, where we, work primarily in agriculture, especially in the South.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it continues to be in our blood. I come from a family sharecroppers. Okay. And I'm very honored to say that because that's what, that family or my family instilled in us was the importance of being able to be self-sufficient. What you grew is what you produce with your hands is what what was provided to the family and other families. So it's an honorable, way of giving to others, through farming and things. And then farming also sort of promotes this idea of economic development. What we're looking to do, especially in light of, the tragedy, the 514 tragedy, where social ills that as African Americans, we always knew existed, but were especially magnified when you talk about food deserts. You also talk about economic development.
Yeah.
The fact that we can't keep dollars in marginalized communities like Michigan Avenue at least 7 times before it leaves a community.
Yeah.
We're trying to create a strong economic ecosystem that can serve as the economic engine to Heritage Destination. And, Andreina, we love to have her here as an intern because she sort of helped us really get going our economic development initiatives that we're planning in the fall. So your listeners know, last year we were able to get 2 grants, $50,000 grant from the National Trust and another $300,000 earmark grant from our own Senator Charles Schumer that's coming to housing and urban development. We're looking to use those dollars to promote economic initiatives that designed to create businesses with women and minority-owned businesses. And when I say minority, I'm not apologetic at all. When I say primarily African-American businesses, to promote businesses that complement our anchors, the idea of Heritage Destination. When we created and developed and promoted our strategic action plan 2 years ago, the community all said collectively that they wanted to see more restaurants down here, more eateries, more boutique shops that used to be here in the 60s and the 70s. And there's no reason why we can't have that again, but we have to start somewhere. So Andreina has been helpful in getting us to the point where we can start taking the next steps to start making those initiatives happen.
That's awesome. And is there specific programming or ideas you kind of have brought to the table of how to execute something like that?
So I've created a resource guide listing all of the different organizations that are focusing on economic development here in Buffalo. So I've been reaching out to them, making that initial connection with the corridor and them. And just to shout out some specific organizations. Please do. That brown bag, we met with the CEO and owner last week, and she was amazing. She has a great network of Black-owned businesses, Buffalo Black-owned businesses that would surely love to be housed in the corridor.
So again, what we're looking to do, as Andreina says, we're making the connections first to these organizations that are already here. And then what we hope to start doing in the fall is start having some community conversations with them that could ultimately lead to initiatives designed to really start promoting and stimulating more businesses. So we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We're looking to just engage those that have been pushed, really turning the wheel for years. And trying to cater a initiative that is specific to our corridor to sort of stimulate growth and business here too. I'm quite excited when I say that because it starts with conversation. You know, if those folks who know Dr. Andreina Taylor, I have great respect for him. He's a preeminent expert on economic and community development, especially marginalized communities around the country. And he tells you that up to now, economic development, the way it's been done, has not been successful, especially for our people. You got to listen to that. And then the next question to him, someone like him, is, then you tell us what we need to be doing. Okay. So that's how these conversations start that lead to beautiful, and programs and initiatives that really promote the quality of life in our community. And I would say we all deserve that right now. We all deserve a vibrant community.
And there's a lot of organizations that do that do some research and then try to tell the community what they need versus getting that community input of how can we execute something with your community? Because that's the key. It's really doing it in conjunction with community, because the community knows what they need and how they can execute something. And so that's awesome. I think listeners, if you have a business, y'all should maybe come on down here and try and get involved in revamping this really historic area. I mean, there's a lot of shuttered buildings now, but they used to be full of stores. I have aunties and godmoms and everything like that who've told me all the shopping they used to do on Michigan and all of these things. And I know a lot of the stores are gone, but that's something we really could bring back. So I love that you're revamping the community in that way as well.
And what's great is we are being contacted by developers, both locally, developers and investors, both locally and not so local, who are interested in our corridor. They've seen the promise. They see the vision, but they see the promise of what this area can be if we're all kind of like pulling in the same direction.
Absolutely. And I mean, you see all the development that's happening in the other parts of downtown. It's about time that the east side, leaning side of downtown gets a little bit more revamped too. And there's so many historical buildings, all these old factory spaces and things of that nature. That could be wonderful. You can see what they did with the central terminal space and some of those other things. The sky's the limit really on what really can be done down here. So that's absolutely amazing. So wondering, obviously we talked about, Black-owned businesses being able to connect in some sort of way, but is there other opportunities for community to kind of be engaged in any of the initiatives? If you have volunteer for, the farmers market or any other initiatives, or even if you have any positions open now, I don't know, but how can community kind of get a little bit more involved in the upkeep and maintenance of the corridor?
That's a very good question. I appreciate the question. Because, we have a limited staff. We have 3 full-time staff members, including myself. We're about to hire at least 2 more part-time, what we call visitor experience specialists that will be helping and keeping open our museums, our historic sites, and assisting those sites and staying open, especially for tours. But we have 9 committees in our organization, and they range from community development, economic development, education, preservation, events planning. So if anyone's interested in being a part of this transformation of our community, we definitely welcome you. You can easily do that by starting by contacting us directly, either on our office, which is 716-322-1002. Get that 716-322-1002. Or you can always visit us online. Our website is Michigan Street Buffalo. You got to spell everything out. Sorry about that. MichiganStreetBuffalo.org. And you see a chock full of information about how you can get involved, the upcoming events, not just for the corridor, but for the 4 anchors as well. So we're really pulling together as a collective, not just individual siloed historic organizations and sites. We're working together. We've created a brand that incorporates all of us. Okay. Again, the goal for all of us is to be sustained as a destination.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not just the Michigan Street Baptist Church or just WUFO Radio, but as a collective.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And that's all a part of this history of our community of building that, corridor space where we can all commune together, fellowship. And it's beyond just certain spaces, but just in the lifeblood of our community to be together, to come around music, to come around history, to come around food, to come around church. And you have all those aspects. So it really is like everything that our community is built out of in one place. And it's really amazing. I really encourage people to come on down here and check it out. I know you mentioned a few things with the Colored Musicians Club. There's some construction going on. Can you give people a hint on what that is? Some people may be driving past it. What's going on over there?
So real quick, I'll give you the skinny on all of them. Okay. So the Michigan Street Baptist Church, we start with them first. Last summer, they started with stabilizing the interior of that church. The church is close to 200 years old. Wow. And it was basically crumbling the ceiling and things. So for those who visited church in the past, up to last year, you would have been greeted by 2 large steel girders that were basically bracing up the ceiling. Okay. Those girders are now removed. The church is stabilized, I'm happy to say.
Oh, wonderful.
So right now they'll be starting on the second phase of the interior stabilization, which will include renovations, the building of new pews that are, they're going to use an old pew from back in the days of the early 20th century of the church. They're going to recreate those pews, as well as open up the space where enslaved, or I should say, freedom seekers were hiding on their quest to get to the Niagara River further north of the city. Yeah. The Nash House is pretty much renovated. Right now, the interior and exterior are complete, but we'll be working with them on expanding their space, which would include an annex and an elevator, much like what the church is going to do with their third phase, which is going to include an annex that's going to connect with gardens and things of that nature. Beautiful. WUFO Radio is presently working with the city on a former building that's about 100 years old as well, right next to the church. They'll be building a sister structure once that's renovated as well. And that'll eventually become the new headquarters and the home for WUFO Radio and the Black Radio History Collective. Wow. So we're quite excited about that. Yeah. And then the Colored Musicians Club, if you look outside right now, they just finished on building their elevator shaft, which we're excited by. So they're going to start building the steel girders that's going to become the structure of their addition to their older building, the older part of this of the museum there. They'll allow them to expand their museum as well as their upstairs entertainment hall, which holds a lot of stories as well. And then finally, what I mentioned it earlier, our Heritage Corridor Commission just purchased and did a ribbon cutting for our new headquarters right across the street from the club and WUFO Radio. That headquarters is eventually going to also become the visitor hub for visitors who are going to be coming to tour. They'll be the first stop of their tours. So we're quite excited by that. So if your listeners come down, we still encourage you to come down and look and enjoy and appreciate the build-out, stabilizations, renovations, and expansions of our corridor. You see history happening in real time.
It's amazing. And it's something that people can be involved in seeing the completion of. I'm sure once you guys get a garden that folks can get involved and put in some plants in there and being a part. And I think it's going to be a beautiful community space, especially outdoor space for the summertime for people to come to another essentially public park almost, you know, and I think that that will be absolutely amazing. Really excited for the finishing of the Colored Musicians Club. There's been some historical musical figures in that building. Yes, and so for it to have this renovation just to honor the legacy of the Colored Musicians Club is amazing. All you jazz fans out there, you should go check it out for sure once it is complete. But in the meantime, there will be those outdoor sessions that you mentioned earlier. And I'm sure all of that will be on your website for people to keep abreast of. Andreina, how are you feeling about this summer? What do you think you're going to do after this summer? What are your thoughts?
I will definitely be coming back and visiting the Musicians Club and the church once they're finished. But I just want to reiterate the farmers market. Every Tuesday, 3 to 6.
Okay.
We offer coupons, $5 coupons. Really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
For all the vendors, and we have giveaways. So just come down. We appreciate all the people. Yeah,
absolutely. I know people don't think to come downtown for food, but they can start thinking to come downtown for food. So that is awesome. Y'all make sure you come down, take advantage of that on Tuesdays. That will be later today from everyone listening. Come on down, get yourself some fresh produce. That will be awesome. I want to thank you both for joining us today on the show. I think our listeners learned a lot about what's happening down here and really hopes for the future. So thank you so much. This is Dejia James with Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, uniting over 365 organizations working to build a better Buffalo. Join us next week where we will discuss the Young Boys and Men of Color initiative with Say Yes Buffalo and the amazing work they lead on empowering young men in our community. It's The Public Good, Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. on Power 96.5 FM and Mix 1080 a.m.